everybody. Welcome to The Truth Will Set You Free. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. And today we have another special guest, and his name is Mark Stephen Pooler. Pooler is an inspirational speaker. He's a professional hairdresser, and he decided to become an author. And it's for a very positive reason. It's his concern and care about others because of his journey in life. We'll be talking about his new book. Tell us the name of your new book.
It's called Tips to Create the Life You Desire.
Exactly. And tell us how you're doing today, Mark.
I'm really, really well today. Really excited to be interviewed by you as well, Linda.
I'm excited about it too because I really love people who find their way in life. I'd really like to start with the little boy, if you don't mind.
Of course, no problem.
Okay, it looked like to me you came from a family that really supported you.
My family were very, very supportive of me always. It was slightly an unhappy childhood because my mum and dad weren't happy together. So there was lots of arguing, but they were really, really good people. They were just young and the relationship had turned toxic.
And you had, what, two brothers?
I've got two older brothers, yes.
So you're the baby.
I'm the baby. I'm 36 years old.
Yeah.
And my mum always says today, you'll always be the baby no matter what. At 36 years old, I'm still the baby.
And the reason why you wrote your book, one of the basic reasons is because of bullying, right?
Bullying was a big, big part of my childhood.
Right. Give us an idea of the time frame when this came into your life, the bullying.
It started from primary school. I remember the first few days in primary school. As time went on, the bullying started. And it was really, really hard getting bullied and being called a puff and gay at primary school before I even knew my own sexuality myself. I used to think, what's a puff? What are they calling me? I didn't even know my own sexuality at this point, and it was really, really hard getting bullied. I also got bullied about the way I looked, that people used to call me big ears and big chin, and that led to me having very, very low self-esteem, Linda.
And what I was trying to understand, okay, when you was going through this bullying time, how did your family deal with that? Was it something that you had to deal with all by yourself?
You know, my mum read my book the other day and she said to me, Mark, why didn't you tell me you was getting bullied so badly? And I said, Mum, it's years ago now, don't feel guilty. So my mum read my book. She said it was really good, but she felt guilty that I didn't tell her about the bullying. I kept it all into myself. I coped with it on my own, which was really, really hard. But it's hard as a child to go to your parents and tell them that you're bullied.
Wow, and was it mostly boys, or was it a combination of boys and girls?
Girls were my lifeline in school. No, they were my lifeline. So it was normally the boys bullying. Girls were always my friends. So yeah, girls were my lifeline through it all.
I just can't fathom how you was able to keep it a secret from your family. You didn't have a favorite brother or a brother that you confided in?
No, I mean, my brothers were great, but they were older than me, so they were out playing on their motorbikes and getting into trouble. So no, I dealt with it all by myself.
Yeah, and then I also noticed that you went through a time in life when you came to the realization, you said you didn't have no fancy for girls. How did you come to that conclusion?
I was about 12 years old and I realised that I wasn't attracted to girls. And it was really, really hard because I just started secondary school. All my life I've been called a puff and gay, and then all of a sudden it comes true. And how did I admit that to myself after all those years of bullying and being called it? thinking it was wrong, then finally realising I am that way. It was really, really hard time. It was really, really hard.
So you don't think that labeling might have steered you in that direction? Could have been because you're, just like you said, the females were close to you. Your mom was consistently in your life too, protecting you and everything. So, I guess I'm trying to understand, do you think it was influential, or do you think it was just natural, this struggle?
I think your upbringing does have a little bit to do with it, but I personally think you were born with it as well, because at 5 years old, there's a story in my book of the next door neighbours knocking on my mum's door to bring me home, and they say to my mum, we thought we better bring Mark home, we found him walking the streets. And I was wearing my mum's nightie and high heels, and that is at 5 years old. So I do think I was born that way, but I do think as well your environment does have something to do with it as well.
And one of your deliverance came when you took up dancing, right?
Yes, dancing was a really big turning point in my life, because I had no friends, I was getting bullied, and then I saw a dance festival at school, and I said to my mum, I want to do dancing. And my mum used to spend £200 a month to send me to the dancing school. I don't know how she afforded it back then, but my mum always made sure she sent me to the dancing school. It built my confidence. I really feel it gave me some resilience in life, and having lots of friends all of a sudden, and it really did help me progress down the line. And it did make the bullying get worse, but I carried on regardless. And I would always say to people, follow your dreams no matter what. I was getting bullied, but I still carried on following my dream of being a dancer.
Okay, when you say bully, was it any physical violence, or was it mental, emotional, or all three?
At primary school, it was more name calling. It was more name calling. I used to get the odd push and shove, but at primary school, it was more just name calling. When I went to secondary school, it did get a lot more intense and a lot more physical. I wouldn't say I was beaten up, because I wasn't, but I remember one particular day walking home from school, and one of the hard lads in class coming up to me and just kicking me in the back. And I remember running 2 miles home, just scared. So I wouldn't say it was on the physical side, but I believe sometimes the emotional side is a lot worse than being physically hit.
So when it was happening to you, did you ever defend yourself, or did you just walk away from it, or did you cry? How did you react to it?
At secondary school, I did just go into myself. I was in my bedroom a lot by myself. I used to keep all my feelings inside. I was coming to terms with my sexuality. I was getting bullied. So I really did just go into myself and just stay in my bedroom, really.
Okay, so when you say your sexuality, you realize that it really wasn't about females. But did you think it was about anybody, or was that just a reaction to life itself? Did you find an interest? Because it seemed like to me, the bullies were the guys, so it seemed like to me they would be the last people that you would feel like them versus, these nice, tender females.
Yes, it's really, really strange, but I suppose I've always knew deep down. It's like my mum always knew I was gay. I do feel it's something inside of you. I was getting bullied by the boys, and the girls was lovely to me. And I had so many friends that was like my bestest friends. I used to hang around with all the popular girls, but I just wasn't sexually attracted to ladies.
Well, did you have it? Was your home? You don't have hormones, but was you feeling kind of a need of physical drawing or embrace? You know, because some people don't go through that; they just don't be attracted to anybody. Was you having desires?
Yes, you do have desires. You find yourself not thinking of ladies, you think of men. And it was really, really scary at 12 years old. It really was. And then you have to fight your feelings, thinking it's wrong, I shouldn't be this way, it's not normal. You feel like you're the only person that is gay in the whole world.
Okay, so the bullying continued to the point where you just dropped out of school?
I left school before my 16th birthday. Before I left school, my school were really supportive. So they sent me to a home and hospital tuition service. So instead of me going to school all day, I used to have to go to school only for 2.5 hours a day. And I was taxied there, taxied back, and I did the main subjects of English, maths and science. But I left school with really, really bad grades. I left school before my 16th birthday, and I left school with really bad grades, and I feel that was because of all the bullying, my education.
You were very smart. That's the thing about it. You were a very smart kid. In fact, you said you thought you had ADD for some reason.
I was definitely ADHD when I was little. I do believe that. My mum would tell you the same. I was very energetic, wild, running around like a crazy person. I would pick up people's bad habits. So I had an auntie that blinked a lot. I couldn't stop blinking. So I was very obsessive compulsive as a child.
Okay. And so once you stopped going to school, when did the drugs come into your life?
At the age of 15, I started hanging around with my brother and his girlfriend, and they introduced me to gay clubbing. I went to my first gay club at the age of 15. I had a false identification. I don't know how I used to get in because I did look like a child. And unfortunately, at the time, my brother was on drugs, and he introduced me to softer drugs like cannabis and speed. And that was where my journey into drug taking started.
And you said that took away your insecurity and it really kind of empowered you to feel confident about yourself?
Drugs, they made me forget all of the badness in my life. It was an escape. And when I was on the drugs, they gave me confidence that I didn't have to talk to people and to be myself, what I couldn't have without drugs. So yes, that did give me confidence while I was on the drugs. But as anyone who takes drugs know, when you're not on the drugs, you suffer without them. So it's great having the drugs to give you the high, but when you're not on the drugs, you have a really bad low.
So when did you actually have your first encounter meeting someone you was attracted to finally? Did that really fulfill you, or did you think you was maybe made a mistake of thinking that's who you were?
I was 17 when I first met my proper long-term partner I say long-term, it was 9 months. So I was around 17 years old, but I'd always, from the age of 12, fancied guys. But I was around 17 years old.
And you didn't have no problem when you shared it with your family? It was pretty well received, right? And was this before the drugs or after the drugs that you shared with everyone what you was experiencing?
I hadn't started drug taking when I told my mum I was gay, I'd just started going out to the clubs and mixing with gay people, drinking alcohol, and I went missing for a few days. And back then, we had mobile phones. My mum didn't know where I was. She was worried where I was. And I'd found some new friends that were gay. And I went missing for a few days, and it was actually my friend's mum that said, you need to ring your mum. She's going to be worried about you. And she said, I think you should tell her about who you are. And if you want, I will come with you. And so my friend at the time, who was gay, his mum come with me, and I come out to my mum at age 15 with my friend's mum beside me as support.
So did that make you feel better? At this point, okay, now you have your identity, that still didn't make you happy?
I felt a lot better. A big weight was taken off my shoulders when I come out, because I could finally just be myself. And my mum was really supportive. My dad was really supportive. And I could finally just be myself without having to hide who I was. But my partying got a lot more. So I was going out a lot more, partying harder.
So how was you able to pay for this kind of partying? Did you have a job?
I started hairdressing at the age of 16. So I did get a very, very small wage, and I used to spend all of it on going out.
And you also mentioned that they had talked about your appearance so bad that you had several plastic surgeries.
Yes, I was always bullied for my ears sticking out and a big chin. And over the last few years, back to my childhood, when I was 12, I had my ears pinned back because of all the bullying. I've also had a chin reduction, all my teeth straightened because of being called big chin. And I've also had a hair transplant because I'm a hairdresser and I hated the fact that I was receding. And I truly believe if I hadn't have been bullied, I would have been happy with who I was. And it was like the scars, the wounds had healed, but the scars were still there. So as I got older, all the bullying for the way I looked, it was inside of me. The scars were still there, and it made me very insecure, so low self-esteem. If I was ever going into a room full of people, I would be shaking, very nervous person. I've always suffered with my nerves. But I have transformed myself over the last few years, and I've really developed as a person now.
So would you say all that surgery, do you feel like the person you're looking like now is a person that's better than the person before all that happened?
I wouldn't say better, but happier. Because for cosmetic surgery, I always believe if it's correcting something, then go for it. And with me, I did have sticky out ears, I did have a big chin, and I wouldn't have been happy without not going down the line of the surgery, because I was so insecure with the way I looked. And for me, the surgery did heal me inside. It did make me more confident about the way I looked. And now it's not like I'm obsessed with surgery. I'm quite comfortable in my own skin. So if it's correcting something, I am for it, as long as you don't get obsessed by surgery and take it to extremes.
Tell us about when you hit rock bottom. You had a very profound statement about hitting rock bottom. You said you know about rock bottom. Share that with us.
Rock bottom I've hit rock bottom a couple of times. At my worst, I was sniffing £500 worth of cocaine in a night, and I was taking crack cocaine, and I was addicted to heroin. So I was on the strongest drugs that you can possibly turn to. And I remember being in my bedroom, picking up fluff off the carpet, thinking it was a crack cocaine rock that I had dropped. Now I feel that is rock bottom, that is low, when you are on your hands and knees picking up fluff off the carpet, thinking it's more drugs. And true rock bottom for me, I was on a clubbing night out and I tried a new clubbing drug called GHB, and I was having the time of my life 1 minute, and the next minute I woke up in hospital. I had collapsed, I'd died, my heart had stopped, and I was in hospital with my mum and stepfather at my bedside. My chest had all been shaven, where they had used shock pads on me to bring me back to life. I'd got bruises all up my arm, where adrenaline had been pumped into me, and a very upset stepfather and mum at my bedside. That's rock bottom when I've been given a second chance at life, and for me that was rock bottom, collapsing and my heart stopping.
But that didn't stop you.
It didn't stop me for the first few days. Straight after that, I got my mum and stepfather to drop me off at an house party, and I carried on taking ecstasy the same day I died. That is how low and down my life had got to, that I'd just been given a second chance at life, and I go out and I carry on taking drugs. But a few days after that, my mum caught me in my bedroom taking crack cocaine, and she got the crack pipe off me that I was using, ran outside with it, she chucked it down the drain, and she kicked me out of home. And that was the best thing she could have ever have done for me, because I moved away from the area, got my own flat, and I give up the strong drugs just by using the power of my mind. Now, I know some people need the help of a doctor, but in my own experience, I just use the power of my mind, and I give up strong drugs instantly just from using the power of my mind and my own strength and my own will.
And you also said that you had came to where you started using your mind power. It started with the law of attraction.
Yes, a good friend who I shared, she was my landlord for a short while. I shared a house with her. She gave me my very first law of attraction book, and I remember reading it, thinking there's really something about this, about choosing the thoughts, what you put into your mind. Because up until that point, I really had negative self-talk. And I read the book and I started talking better to myself and putting better thoughts into my mind. And it did start to make a difference in my life. I did still carry on going out clubbing and taking softer drugs, but I was off strong drugs and I was on a slow journey of sorting my life out. And I really think the law of attraction is such a powerful thing. The thoughts that you put into your mind really do have an effect on the outcomes in your life.
So when you started reading the law of attraction, were you on drugs, or was this before the drug journey?
It was just after I quit stronger drugs like crack cocaine and heroin. I was still taking softer drugs like cannabis ecstasy and still going out partying. And it was later down the line, I was age 30 years old when I really started getting into spirituality, law of attraction, quantum physics, personal development and consciousness. And from 30 to where I am now, 36, I've really transformed my life.
And so if you was to tell a child about bullying, what would you tell them that you feel like would help them?
I think, first of all, if you're getting bullied, never, ever feel ashamed. Never suffer in silence. Reach out to somebody, whether it's a friend, a mentor, a teacher, or a close relative. Always ask for help. Don't be ashamed. And also, remember, bullying is illegal. If you're getting bullied by someone and it gets to the point where you can't take it no more, go to the police. It's illegal to get bullied, but never, ever feel ashamed. And I always say to people as well, getting bullied, stick up for yourself, because sometimes if you just take someone bullying you and bullying you, the bullying will carry on. So I always say, stick up for yourself. Don't be afraid to stick up for yourself and ask for help from a friend or a mentor. And also, I always say, sympathise with the bully, because a lot of times when you're getting bullied, the person who is doing the bullying is getting bullied, and that is why they're bullying you. So try and sympathise with the bully, but don't suffer alone. Reach out and ask for help.
And what would you say for a child that's struggling with their sexuality at a young age, like around 7, 8, 9 years old? What would you say to them?
I personally think at 7, 8 and 9, that's a little bit young, because people could just be confused. There are a lot of people who may have those feelings when they're 7, 8 and 9, but they may grow out of it. So I would teach the child that it's not wrong, it's not wrong, but let them just find their own way. I would say at the ages 12 to 13, that is when you are going through puberty, realising your own mind. And I would tackle it around 12 to 13 years old if the feelings are still there. But I think 7, 8 and 9, it's a little bit young.
Because a lot of parents try to say, well, they like dolls, so they're going to get to play with dolls even though they're a boy. And then some people be like, that's my boy, he ain't playing with no dolls. So which approach do you think is more logical or more, healing for the child?
I personally think if someone wants to play with dolls, let them. Because if you tell a child something is wrong, that is going to stay with them. I'm sure it was said to me before, you can't wear that, or you can't play with that. And I still turned out gay. So let a child do what they want. And I also know a lot of children that have played with dolls and they're not gay. So just let the child find their own way. But like I've said, I think 7, 8 and 9 is a bit young to deal with sexuality. I would try and combat it at an older age, when people are going to secondary school, really.
I definitely agree with that. I just wondered what your take was on that. And you also said that you was able to get off of drugs with your mind, strictly using your mind. You didn't go through withdrawal?
I cold turkeyed, yeah.
Did it hurt?
So, yeah, I went through a lot of pain coming off crack and heroin. You get the shakes, you get hot and cold flushes, you sweat, you just want it, you want the pain to go away. But I suffered for a good couple of weeks, and I used the power of my mind. I've always been very strong-willed, and I moved away from the area. I moved away from the people that I was associating with that were dragging me down, and I just did it from my own strength and will. There will be people out there that need help from the doctor, which is also fine. But for me, I used the power of my mind and did it just from my own strength and my own will.
So it didn't have anything to do with a higher power. It was strictly your own power?
The power of my mind.
Wow. And you seem to be really wholesome. So would you actually say today you're happy?
I am really, really happy. I'm living a purposeful life. I'm on a great journey, and I really want to inspire people with my story and show people that you can come from any background and you can still make a success of yourself. Your past doesn't define who you are.
And so, a lot of people do stuff for other people, but that was strictly something you did for yourself, right?
Yes. I knew I was living a bad life and my life was going nowhere.
And you never, through that, sometimes when people are going through insecurities and struggling with people, accepting them, you never had any weight issues? That was never on your list?
Weight issues? What do you mean?
You feel like gained weight, bad eating habits or anything like that?
Yes. When I was 25 to 30, I gained 3 stone in weight. I was in a relationship at the time, and the relationship wasn't working out, and I became unhappy, and I gained 3 stone in weight.
Okay, what is stone?
14 pounds stone.
Okay.
Yeah, so 14 pound is stone. And I gained 3 stone. So that's 42 pounds in weight.
Because of a relationship?
Yes, I'd just become unhappy and I took comfort in eating.
Wow.
A little funny story. I was doing my mum's hair and she looked at me and she said, "Mark, your belly is massive. You need to lose some weight." And I thought, my mum never has an opinion on anything. So I know I've got a problem with my weight, because when I was looking in the mirror, I couldn't see the weight that I had put on. But then when I looked at photos, I was thinking I've piled on the pounds. And so, yeah, I started eating healthy, taking my dog on long walks, and I'm now I'm now happy with my weight.
Okay, tell us the name of your book again.
My book is called Tips to Create the Life You Desire.
That's an excellent book, by the way.
And it's a story of tragedy turned into brilliance. It's basically my life story of how I've took a bad situation and made it better, but also it's got tips of how to make a difference in your own lives and how to turn your own life around, and the steps I have taken to make a difference and to move forward in life.
You definitely did a good job when you put that book together. I like the way you told your story, and when you told your story, it didn't make us have to feel down.
Yes.
The way you was able to do that, even though you was going through some horrific experiences and you were suffering innocently as a child, it didn't make you not want to read the book because you would be sad. It just made us want to find out how you end up. And you did a good job doing that. At the same time, you also was teaching people to be encouraged to not let outside circumstances determine your future. Even though it had a large part of yours, you took it and turned it around to make it something more powerful for other people. And a lot of your tips is amazing, and they're simple and they're encouraging.
Yes.
You did a good job. I really like that book. And I really
That's it.
hope people get to read it. You don't have to be a drug addict. You don't have to be bullied. You don't have to be suffering with sexuality. Just going through life, having a tough time. And you know, what I also found interesting was it wasn't because you came from a dysfunctional family. Most people come from dysfunction. You didn't come from dysfunction, but yet you had a dysfunction reaction to life.
Yes, I became out of control. My age is from primary school up until the age of 25. I wasn't happy. I wasn't living in a happy life. I had no direction for my future. I had very, very low self-esteem. I have suffered with stress and anxiety. But from the age of 25 to 30, it was a slow journey of turning my life around. And then at the age of 30, I really got into personal development and the power of my mind and the thoughts that I put into my mind. And I want to take my story and help others that are suffering adversity. And I feel like all the bad that I have been through, I want to make it into something good. And that was why I wrote the book. And that's why I've got into speaking, to inspire people.
Tips with us. Share one of your tips that sticks in your heart.
A big tip for me was definitely facing your fears. For instance, I wanted to be a professional speaker. I hated the sound of my own voice. I was petrified of getting up and speaking in front of an audience. And sometimes in life, you have to face your biggest fears. So I have two techniques. My first technique is toe dipping. So I was scared to stand up and speak in front of an audience. So I started talking to a couple of people, and then I would speak to a slightly bigger group of people, and then a slightly bigger group of people. And over time, that fear gets less and less. So that's my first technique of toe dipping. My second technique is jumping in feet first. For instance, a couple of years ago, I was scared to talk in front of the camera or do a live video on Facebook. And I just do it. I film the video, posted it up on Facebook, and the fear just goes immediately. So you can either work in gently by toe dipping, or you could just jump in feet first, go for it. Either way, the fears will get less and less and less.
And you did a great job just now. You explained it very well. It's like whatever you went through, it really forced you to see yourself and know yourself. You know yourself very well.
Yes, it's took a lot of work. I've invested money in my own personal development. I've had great mentors. I watch a lot of self-development programs, personal development programs, inspirational videos, reading good books, listening to great music, watching what I eat.
So are you an entrepreneur? Or are you an entrepreneur, or do you go to a 9-to-5?
I've got my own hairdressing business, so I'm a freelance hairdresser, so I work for myself.
Wow.
So I set up in business for myself at the age of 30. I left a paid job. I'd got a mortgage and I took the risk. Sometimes in life, to become successful, you have to take a risk. And I set up in business as a freelance hairstylist. So I work for myself, and now I've got my new book, and I'm just doing lots of speaking, which is all new and up and coming. And I'm really, really enjoying inspiring people with my story. And that's the route I want to go down, do more speaking, do more books. And Also, I'm getting into coaching others on self-esteem, personal development, people finding their own brilliance, and also on a business level of branding, finding clients, networking. So I'm on a really, really exciting journey.
And you also said you were looking for like-minded people to join you.
Yes. Yes. The kind of people I would like to work with and coach are people who have got low self-esteem, people who want to find their own inner brilliance, people who lack confidence, people who have belief that they can do better in life, but they're not quite sure of the steps they need to take to further their own entrepreneurial journeys. Also, people that just want help in how to build a network, people who need help on just on the journey that they're on. Like, for instance, a couple of years ago, the thought of writing a book, I wouldn't have known where to go with that, but I had a great mentor who teach me how to build your own success. So that's what I'm aiming to do, coach people on their own journeys, whether it's writing a book, getting started in their speaking journeys, needing help with their own personal development journeys, people suffering with lack of self-esteem. I'm definitely the person that can help them because I have been there and I've walked the path.
Well, how are people finding you?
I am very, very visible online. At the moment, I'm working so hard. I'm all on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm a great networker. I'm great at networking with people and building my network, but also building relationships with people. It's all about building good relationships with people.
Well, have you actually talked to people like at rehab places like that?
That is something on my to-do list. I watched a great training today of how to get more speaking gigs. And yeah, that is something on my to-do list, at reaching out to the organisations where I have really got something to offer, addiction, sexuality. So that is definitely on my to-do.
Bullying is really prominent right now. You would definitely be an asset there. You know, the bullying is really out of control in America. So I don't know, is it like that over there where you are? I know it's pretty bad here in Akron, Ohio, and America.
Bullying is not only when you're younger. I have had bullying when I've been in the workplace, when I used to work in salons.
Really?
And yeah, and I think bullying is just as bad as you get older and you're in the workplace as when you're in school. So bullying is a big thing. It really is a big thing.
I say that's a very important field to go into, direction. I don't know if it's a field of direction, almost more so than the drugs and homosexuality. It seems like the bullying is the domineering one right now, you know, in a lot of ways, because it's like people are placing themselves sexually, but it's always new, younger people coming up in that area. But as far as drugs, that's like out of control. And it's old, but the bullying is fresh off the press in a lot of ways as people becoming conscious of it. Like you said, you kept it a secret a long time. And there's probably a lot of other people who have too, but if it wasn't for the cameras and the phones and things now, we still wouldn't know how domineering it is, you know? So I think that would be a good
hard thing. And you do feel ashamed to reach out for help. So I am happy to share my story in the hopes that it gives people the strength to know that they don't have to be ashamed and, you know, to reach out for help.
Well, you definitely wrote a good book, and it's so personal for the individual to read without feeling uncomfortable or questioning themselves. It can only just make you feel better. I enjoyed it. I remember we was talking, remember Some people don't realize the PTSD symptoms. Even though you weren't diagnosed, you kind of learned just from your own observation that that's a possibility going through your journey.
I definitely think through my life there have been times where I have suffered with post-traumatic stress, definitely. Sometimes when you're in an abusive relationship or going through something really emotional, that can trigger it off. And I definitely think I've suffered that over the years.
Right, and you have several tips to share that they have to read the book to get them. How can they reach you and get in touch with your book?
My book's on Amazon and it's called Tips to Create the Life You Desire. And people can get me on Facebook using my name, Mark Stephen Pooler, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or they could even email me at info@markstephenpooler.com.
Well, I can say this, you are very professional and you are on point. You do follow-ups. You make sure you cross all your T's and dot your I's. You are a perfectionist. And I
am a perfectionist.
I look for you to go very far because that's definitely needed to be successful. And you definitely have those qualities. And you know what, Mark? You are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us the truth to remember you by.
I've really, really enjoyed being interviewed by you, Linda. It's been a pleasure.
I want to hear a truth that we can remember you by.
A truth that you can remember me by.
Yes.
I always say, always be yourself, no matter what. People will try and knock you down. People will tell you that you're not good enough. Let me tell you, you are good enough just the way you are. Always be yourself, no matter what.
And you too. You always be yourself because you're a beautiful soul. I was looking forward to this interview because you're so inspirational. I mean, you wear your truth. It's all over you. Your truth is all over you. There's nothing about it that's not you.
That's another truth. I always say, be real, be yourself no matter what. I can't be anything but myself. And it's took me a long time to be that way. But I am only ever going to be me. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be honest. Some people might love me. Some people might hate me. But that's okay because I'm being real and I'm being true.
Show us your book again before we go.
Tips to Create the Life You Desire.
That's to bring out the brilliance in you, right?
Yes. My whole statement is creating brilliance out of adversity because everyone has brilliance within themselves. Everyone.
And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I've really, really enjoyed it.
It was my pleasure. Take care.
Take care, Linda. Bye.
Bye-bye.